Is the audio okay? Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you perfectly.
Oh,
You can hear
great.
me?
Yep, coming through loud and clear. And Anton, you said this is audio only, this session, I think. Yeah.
Well, I think is it audio only? Yeah, I can move to another room now if that's the case.
Got to do something with that photo. It's about 6-7 years old.
This is a reminder.
Let's cancel.
Yep.
Perfectly well.
Don't know if you know, Nadine, you're on mute.
Oh, hello. Oh, thanks. Sorry, I was disabled, so I couldn't change it. Thanks, Anton. Hi, everybody. I'm Nadine. I am a corporate marketing consultant by trade. I'm also a fractional CMO, so I work with startups and scale-ups to drive their business forward with impact through to revenue. And I also have a organization called Ace Entrepreneurs. We help underrepresented founders start, scale, and take their business through to investment. We specifically work with underrepresented founders through events, advisory services as well. And I work with a couple of startups as an advisor too. So looking forward to hearing the questions today. Thank you very much.
Hello, everybody. My background is corporate, like a lot of people. In the past, I've held senior marketing roles in organizations and I've run businesses of different sizes. For the last 15 years while I've been working for myself, like Nadine, I'm a fractional CMO. I actually work with an organization called the Marketing Centre. And the clients that I work with, typically, they're not ready or big enough to employ a full-time marketing director, but they want that level of input in the business. So I'm there to help them to develop a marketing strategy, execute that strategy, and to build marketing competence within the organization. The other half of what I do is I'm a pricing expert. So I talk to businesses at various conferences, do keynotes on the psychology of pricing. I work with individual clients, helping them through my pricing process and working out what prices they should be charging. And I've written a book called How to Price Your Platypus. That's me.
Hi everyone, my name's Ian Russell. I've worked in mobile app growth specifically for over 15 years now. I was most recently director of app growth at a fintech scale-up called MoneyHub, and I am currently on a new venture as a co-founder and chief growth officer at a new fintech startup called Know Your Dosh.
Hello, sorry about that. My apologies. My name's Ian Brown. I've been in business development for 30 years. The last 20 of that working in startups at a wide range of type of products, from manufactured car parts all the way across to the digital sphere with apps and in the last 9 years, AI.
So for me, do's and don'ts. My biggest don't on early stage growth is don't rush. Don't rush too quickly into spending marketing budget on various paid channels. I always feel that's kind of like the quickest route to burning out very quickly. A lot of the ad networks will not even adhere to limits and structure you're sort of trying to put in place. So you just want to take it steadily and go for it in a structured way, which I suppose that couples into my do, really.
Okay, I'll jump in. I think it's me. So my do is, treat your startup like a product from the very start. So that means you are testing it, you are constantly iterating what you're doing, and you're also speaking to customers. And sometimes you might be speaking to these customers sooner than you think, but actually getting that feedback as earlier as possible and helping you build a really great MVP or product or service, because it goes to any of those type of businesses, is really valuable. And it will get you sort of ahead of the game. Don't go too far down the line and then you realize you've actually not built something for a customer. And so my don't is don't think that because you're busy, you've got traction. Basically, we can fill our time with endless tasks that go on forever. But I think what we really need to focus on as founders is repeatable businesses, really good insights, and things that will make your business grow. So that's my do's and don'ts. Thank you.
Okay, I think it's me now. From my point of view of seeing countless businesses either at the idea stage or at the startup stage where I've then helped them gain traction, I would say my most important do, research. Research your idea, research your product, research your market. There's 8 billion people on this planet. Ideas quite often, or 999 million times out of whatever, are not unique. So make sure you do your research properly. My don't is, don't spend a penny unless you can help it. Guerrilla marketing is free. Do that first before you start spending anything on marketing costs, etc.
I've lost track. Who's next? Anton, is it me next, or is it the other?
It's me and my fat thumbs, unfortunately.
Oh, right.
Are not doing things right. But David, yes, you're next and you're last here.
Okay, fantastic. Sorry, I lost track of how many people had spoken. So, given my background, my do is not going to be terribly surprising, but it's about getting your prices right. It's a damn size easier to get your price right at the beginning rather than price yourself too low and then try to increase your price once you've launched. And that comes back to a theme which has been mentioned at least twice, if not 3 times, and that's about really understanding the customers, doing the research. If you are launching something brand new, it can be a challenge trying to figure out what the price should be, but there are ways of doing it. There are tools that you can use to try and establish what value you're delivering and what therefore the price ought to be. And you want to get clear about that right up at the beginning.
That is amazing stuff, and I really appreciate all of you. This is brilliant. Thank you very much for those do's and don'ts. Right, just before we go into questions, a quick reminder to everyone, this is Startup Growth Q&A. It's our 142nd session. We're only going to be here for the next 44 minutes, helping founders with whatever questions you may have on growth. There are no wrong questions and there's no need to be shy. It's a learning curve for us all. You can ask us any questions to do with your business growth, whether that's user, client, vendor, partner acquisition, growth hacks, go-to-market, sales, marketing, advertising, branding, and all that jazz. Now, if you're following us via the live streams, whether that's LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram, please be aware that unfortunately we are unable to monitor your questions there live. So you'll need to join us here on the audio only call here on Microsoft Teams. It's free and it's easy and accessible and flexible to join from anywhere. All you need is just internet and audio. If you've got questions for our brilliant team here, the panelists who've been there and done it, you need to type that question in the chat here on our Microsoft Teams. And for those of you that are on the live streams, the best way to get to here is either through the links that I've put on those live streams, or simply go to our website, startuptoscaleup.club, find today's session, which is Startup Growth Q&A 142, click join. It's a quick registration. That gets you a link to your email, and via that link you can join us. When here, like the others that are here now, you type your question in the chat. I'll then give you the mic and we can take it away. Please try to keep your question with an introduction. So introduce yourself first when you get the mic and then fire away with the question. Try and keep that to about a minute. And also if my brilliant panelists can keep their answers to about a minute each, that would be great too, please. And just a reminder that if your questions today are not on growth, Please keep them for the save your questions for the other events we run. Monday's talent, Tuesday's product and tech, Wednesday's growth, Thursday's fundraising, second Friday of the month UK startup law, and third Friday of the month UK startup finances. They're all from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time, and you can RSVP to any of them via our site, startuptoscaleup.club. Actually, when you're there, what you might want to do is go and join our WhatsApp community. It's groups of founders, investors, operators, and so on. There's a WhatsApp icon at the top and bottom of that site. All you have to do is just click on there. Now, without further ado, we'll go to some questions that were sent in, whilst the others get the courage to type their question here in the chat. So, this is from somebody based in Shoreditch, that's East London or East Central. For those of you that don't live in the UK. And she says, we're a seed stage e-commerce marketplace offering ethically sourced home goods. With a strong sustainability focus, we've seen some traction via word of mouth, but lack clarity on how to scale user acquisition systematically. How can we effectively test and iterate on acquisition strategies whilst maintaining brand authenticity and reaching eco-conscious consumers nationally? So perhaps we can start again with the lady of the house, and then after that we can maybe go to, let's see who we got. Perhaps we can go to Ian Brown, Ian Russell, and David Abbott at the end. Nadine?
Thank you, Anton. Okay, so I'll cover just two ideas for this one. The first one is prep before you do anything. So it's fantastic that you've decided what your brand stands for and your ethos is around sustainability. And there is a very large audience that agree with that also. So the first thing to do is to connect with that audience via some kind of persona. So who are they? Where do they live? What do they do? What are their common actions? How can you integrate into their life as an add-on, you know, so something that feels natural rather than sort of trying to shoehorn yourself in there. So first of all, find out who they are and create a couple of personas, 1, 2, 3, maybe max will be enough. This will help you create messaging, partnerships, and actually convert with them on language that they understand. So, you know, don't be shy to reach out to people and talk to them and see, you know, even in like things like DMs, you can find out what motivates them to purchase, and then you can use that within your campaign, which leads really nicely onto test small, yeah, and sort of test things, see if they work, give it a bit of time to live and breathe, and if it doesn't work, you need to quite quickly change. TikTok ads is really good for that. You can probably spend like 50 quid per creative to test. Set yourself a benchmark of like 2% click-through rate. That's quite standard for our industry for a really good success metric. And then check it every 4 to 6 weeks. Is this working? Does my creative work? Does the messaging work? Was that person that I spoke to, you know, a great person to learn from, or should I be moving on to someone else? But that iteration is really key. And like one of our other panelists said, don't spend the world yet, just spend a little bit and see if it works. Thank you. And on to the next panelist now. Thank you.
Sorry, I can jump in there if you wish. Ian Brown. What I would generally say to companies in this environment is one would be to make sure they set a clear testing framework. So define your goals, look at the growth monthly active users, say over a 3-month period, establish your KPIs, which is such as your cost per acquisition, your retention rate, if you've got any LTV or MPSs, build test cycles, a 2-week sprint trial on 1 or 2 channels or messages at a time. Develop your messaging pillars. So make sure you can anchor it to an authentic and reputable message. So something where you've got something like, you know, every purchase funds X amount, you know, it could be 5 pence, it could be 5%, which goes to other eco incentivized organizations or projects. Make sure you verify that what you're selling is traceable with respect to the materials, and they can prove that if it says it's leather, make sure it's cow leather, for argument's sake. If it's eco and it's vegetarian, make sure that the product itself has been tested so it's safe as well. Ensure that you look at the channels, that you start with owned and earned channels. So build test lead magnets, such as 10 ways to weaker-proof X, Y, and Z. Look at a referral program where you can give discounts and or donations, one or the other. Partnerships, so you can cross-promote with eco-influencers in adjacent ethical brands. Make sure you track, and this is really important, your sign-up rates, your conversion rates, and your referral conversions. Then look at your post-purchase loops, so automate those systems. So in other words, when someone makes a purchase, you want to know, why did they choose you? What would they tell a friend about your product or your service? Make sure you incentivize your user-generated content with small donations. Again, environmental causes per purchase is a brilliant one in this type of marketplace. Make sure you work every customer, turn them into every buyer into a promoter for yourself, so they can turn around and say, well, I've bought this, and they've got a feel-good factor about it because it supports their ethical stance, and it also allows them to talk to other people. That's free marketing. Make sure that you concentrate on your analytics. Make sure that you understand where your purchases are coming from, which markets are not working for you, because obviously that allows you to ensure that you're not wasting money. And then final thought from me in that process would be look at your core advantage in trust and values. Avoid aggressive direct-to-customer tactics, which will dilute that. Focus on your resonance over reach early on. With channels, systematically test anything that amplifies trust, not impressions, because you need to learn a distinction between the two. To finally underline all that, you would then look to set up a 2-week acquisition experiment based on the plan that you've developed, and just test each approach. So 2 weeks, this is one offer that we're doing. 2 weeks later, you do a different type of offer or incentive, and you'll see from that, when you're looking at your analytics, which works, which doesn't.
Thank you very much, Ian. And last but not least, David, please.
I think there's a lot of good advice, a real lot. So I'll try not to repeat what everybody else has said. Like the others, though, you've got to balance between fast and expensive. So that's things like pay-per-click, AdWords, Facebook advertising, whatever it might be, or cheaper and slower, which are things like social, word of mouth, and relationships building, other things like that. So a lot depends upon how well funded you are, how much money you've got, and what your approach is therefore. If you do go down the social route, by the way, a lot of people think that just posting is enough. If you really want to make social work, you've got to interact. So that's where a lot of the time comes in. It's not enough just to stick a new post up on Facebook or whatever to say, hey, we've just done this, or we've added this new product to the range. You've got to be out there finding influencers in your marketplace. You've got to be interacting with them. You're trying to get them to come back and interact with you. If they do, then you've got to reply to their comments and posts, and you've really got to put the time and effort into it. In terms of which social channels, you've really got to understand where your customers hang out as well. There's no point whatsoever spending a vast amount of time on LinkedIn if none of your customers go to LinkedIn. I'd also say, I don't think this was mentioned, acquisition really breaks down into two areas. One is lead generation. So how can you fill as many leads into the top of the funnel as possible? But the other is conversion optimization. So how do you make sure that as many of those leads, the appropriate ones, some will be rubbish and you might not want to interact with them, but out of the proper, the targeted leads, the ones that you actually want to interact with, how many of them can you get through to the bottom of the bucket? How can you get them to actually become customers? I think a final thing that I would add is a tip to help you make sure that you understand whether you're doing the right thing on paid advertising is you want your conversion rate times your average order value times your average margin percent, net margin percent, to be greater than your cost per click. If it is, then you're making money. If it's less than that, then each click is costing you more than you're actually generating. Now, average order value, that's for businesses. And I think reading your question, I think this might be, that's for businesses. It's basically a one-off sale. Somebody buys home goods, that might be a piece of furniture, and it could be years before they need another one. If, on the other hand, home goods means a consumable item, if they're coming back regularly, you might keep them for 2 or 3 years or 4 years before they lapse, then the formula is average order value times, conversion rate times average lifetime value times the average net percent that you make on each sale. You want that to be greater than cost per click. Okay.
Thank you very much, David. David, if you can make a personal note to yourself to add that formula. On our LinkedIn, I have shared the live stream and I've tagged all of you panelists. If you can think at some point today, if you can add that formula, I'd really appreciate it. But I'm not going to let you go because we've got a question on pricing. So we'll start with you, and then if the others want to add anything.
Anton, I had just a couple of things to mention on the previous question. I think
Go ahead.
It hadn't got round to me, or I missed my slot. I apologise for that. I thought it was really great to see that you've been getting traction via word of mouth, and I think it's important to be able to track that if you can and establish what those key sort of like winning conversion points are, to echo a lot of what the other panelists have said, and being able to tie that back in to your systematic testing on other channels to really understand what converts well and what not so well, so you know where to like pull levers going forwards. And also, if you've got areas where you can track a really good like baseline of organic activity outside of your campaigns, when you're running and testing new areas, just have a look to see if there's any like bumps there, which you might hear the terms around called like incrementality or the halo effect, because that can also help where you can clearly see, okay, I've done something extra here. It hasn't directly tracked through the network, but I've got this bump in what I would normally see, because then when you're not doing a lot else different, you can attribute that incrementality to that campaign as well. And so that can help like your testing and learning framework.
Thank you very much, Ian. And I'm sorry, I think we did miss you. You're right.
That's right.
David, so yeah, if you don't mind, at some point, either during the session or after the session, on LinkedIn, I've tagged you all. So in the comments of that live stream, if you wouldn't mind sharing that formula, that would be great. And get ready for the next question. I have put that question in the chat for everyone to read. But for those of you that are on the live streams, I'll read it out loud. We can start, when it comes to answers, we can start with David. And then if anybody else wants to add anything, because this is kind of focused on pricing, you don't have to if you don't feel like it, but we can then perhaps go David, Ian, Russell, that is, Ian Brown, and then Nadine, if you do want to add anything. If you don't, that's totally fine too. So the question here is, this is a clean tech for energy storage systems in Leeds. They're preparing for Series A. The situation is that they lack visibility when it comes to competitive pricing structures. And because I've tried to reshape this question because it was a very long one, quite long-winded, trying to explain that there's no way that they can get from competitors what the pricing is, and they tried. So then he goes on to explain, our energy storage systems are competing with large-scale providers, but we struggle to analyze their pricing models and bundled service offerings. How can we develop a competitive analysis framework using public procurement records, client interviews, and partnerships with market research firms to uncover pricing strategies or identify gaps in competitive value propositions and refine our offering to better attract mid-sized industrial customers? And then I got another message saying that they actually tried these things and they couldn't really come up with anything decent. So perhaps we can start with you, David, if that's all right, and then if the others want to add anything. So Ian Russell, and then Ian Brown, and then Nadine, you're welcome to add anything you want to as well. David?
Sure. So this is less of a pricing question. I know it's phrased as such, but it's much more of a market research and market understanding question. And I do understand the context there is if we understand what the competitors are doing, we've got a better handle on where to pitch our prices relative to them. But fundamentally, this is about understanding competitors. And you're absolutely right. In a B2B marketplace, it's a damn sight harder to understand what competitors are doing than it is in a B2C marketplace, where there's a lot more transparency. You know, prices are out there in the market in general. You are doing a number of the right things in terms of engaging market research firms, but a lot depends upon what it is that you're asking them to do. If you, I'm not going to say, I'm about to mention my website, not because of self-promotion, but because I'm going to list.
No, there's nothing wrong with that, Ian.
Well,
there's nothing wrong with that.
That's not why, though. There are three things that I'm going to mention to you, and I've written blogs about all three, but there's no possible way that we can dive into them in any depth on a live stream.
Another bit of homework, if I may. David, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yeah.
Another bit of homework, if I may. Please feel free to share those blogs in the comments of our live stream on LinkedIn later, because I think it might be useful to people. Thank you. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so lives. I'm just making a note for myself to do that. So when you talk to the market research companies, you could get them to apply one of these three models. The first one is called the Van Westendorp Price Sensitivity Meter, and Westendorp is spelled Westendorp, if you want to look it up, or the Gabor-Granger pricing model, which is as it sounds, or the Becker, as in the tennis player, de Groot, DEGROOT, Marschak, MARSCHAK method. They are three pricing methods that are used by organizations that that might have introduced something new, and they don't yet have a handle on what a customer might be prepared to pay. But they can be used with people who are typical clients for your service and might be buying it elsewhere as a method to uncover where the price points are in the marketplace.
What are the basis of those three models? Is there a way to explain them? Just, I know you can't go into detail and depth because there's only so much time, but if you had 30 seconds or so for each model, how would you kind of try and describe it, David?
Right, the Van Westendorp method asks people for four numbers. At what point does a particular thing seem so cheap it's you wouldn't trust it? At what point does it start to look like a bargain? At what point is it starting to look expensive? And at what point is it so expensive you wouldn't even think about buying it? So, and then there's a processing.
Amazing.
Yeah, there's a processing.
And the next one?
Well, that that's not just it. You can't do that with one person. You know, you've got to have a reasonable number of responses, and then there's an analysis. Gable Granger asks, if you've got an idea for roughly what the spread of prices are, you come up with a number of test prices, and you ask a question about would you be prepared to pay this price? And there's a scale of, you know, yes, definitely, down to no, definitely. You know, there's a 5-point scale, and you keep asking for different prices within the range. Keep asking that question until you reach the point where you're really nudging up against the no, I wouldn't pay any more for it. So you're trying to find that bit. And the Gaber de Groot Marshak method, and this is the one I really like, actually. The way that works is you ask people to say, what price would you be prepared to pay for this? But once you've told me the price, I'm going to generate, using a random number generator, I'm going to generate a price within what I think the appropriate range is. If it's less than what you've said, you have to buy this item at the price that I've just said. At the price that you've just got. I beg your pardon. You've got to buy this item at the price that I've just generated. Yeah? If the price that I generate is higher than what you've said, you can't have it. You know, you've got to walk away. So it's almost like
where did you get that generator?
Oh, you just use Excel or something like that, or, you know, there are all sorts of ways to generate. But you've got to have a band. You've got to do a little bit of research to at least understand this is the band within which we think a reasonable price is going to be. So, sorry, I've spent more on that than I expected to, because there's one other thing that you can look at. There are 2 tools that I don't think I've blogged about these yet, but there are 2 tools that you can apply. Well, these are tools that I use when I'm working with clients, but there are methods for establishing what your comparative value is, and there are methods for establishing what your absolute value is in the market. And the final thing that I would say about absolute value, particularly in a B2B context, is imagine a 4x4 matrix. One column is looking at it from the point of view of who gets the benefit, because there's a decision maker and there's the company. So the decision maker might get a benefit from making a decision about using the right supplier. It makes them look good. It can improve their career prospects. So they've got personal benefits that they get, and obviously there's the company benefits from whatever you do. So that's the vertical. Horizontally, you've got financial benefits. You know, we're going to implement this and it's going to save us all of this money and lower energy costs. But you've also got non-financial benefits, which might be our ability to attract better staff, because we're demonstrating that we're a very sustainable and green and an ecologically aware company, and or whatever it might be. So just think about those 4 boxes when you're working out value. Value isn't just pound notes. Value, you've got to think about it in those 4 contexts. I apologize, that was a long answer.
No, that's okay. Thank you very much. What I'd like to, I mean, obviously you can add whatever you want, team, but what I'd like to focus with the others now is what happens if you are in this position. What happens if you can't do what David suggested, i.e., if you can't just go to somebody and say, what is the value that you have, because then you'll complete what is the value that this has for you, or whichever of those techniques that David suggested. Because if you do that, you may actually completely lose that person and you're not able to research. Maybe our team can think of some of those scenarios, and what would you do in that case if anybody wants to add anything? If not, don't worry, we can move on to the next one. So let's try them. Ian, Russell, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I was getting ready to say I'll pass the virtual mic on this one. It's not quite my area of expertise.
Ian Brown?
Yeah. Having been in a few startups that had the same issue with respect to understanding what the market was charging, I tended to find that you had to adopt couple of methods with respect to how to fill back or backfill that knowledge. So generally, one of the things I do would be to build a competitive pricing intelligence framework. Essentially, this is allows you to look at the public procurement records, and then you reverse engineer the pricing and the scope of services from the awarded contracts. So generally, you go to say websites such as Contracts Finder, the Tenders, Electronic Daily, the local authority procurement portals, etc. And from those sites, you would extract award values versus capacity. So in the case of a green tech, with energy, you're looking at the price per megawatt hour or megawatt, subject to which one it is, or the amount that you're purchasing. The scope of work, so is it an install only versus a turnkey? So storage, grid integration, O&M, the contract duration, delivery timeline and timescales, service level terms. So all of those things are publicly available if they've gone via the public procurement system. To get that data, you would use a web scraping tool such as Python and Beautiful Soap. Is just one that you could use. That would allow them to either do it themselves, or they have to hire someone, a low-cost person who can do the virtual analysis to support their building structured data sets. So that will give them the price and feature matrix by provider and project type. So hopefully that would help in their first area. With respect to finding out from clients, what they would need to be doing is conduct deep dive client interviews. So the objective there would be to allow them to understand price and sensitivity, perceive values in alternatives, and also see where clients have had unmet needs. And it happens quite often. In a tender document, you'll see a requirement for 10 items, for argument's sake, and you can only deliver 8. Another company would only ever be able to deliver 7, and another company might be able to deliver 9. And every company would be going back to the client asking if they're allowed to put a substantive tender in, because they don't supply it, and no one in the UK market supplies that type of thing. So and that usually happens because the client is not educated, and often, especially if you're looking at local authorities, it's someone who's generally lumbered with putting the tenders together. Then they do the courses, but ultimately they don't have the same commercial sense because they don't have to live and die by the source. So their targets would be clients who choose the larger players. So that allows them to find out at what scale the prices are. Lost prospects, talk to consultants and DNOs. So the DNOs are the organisations that do the connections, and they're involved in site planning. That would allow them to focus on the cost of ownership, look at bundled versus unbundled pricing preferences. It allows them to look at your risk appetite with respect to penalties and performance guarantees that you'd be required to give as part of the contracts, and also from the client's point of view, what they wish they had. So they've gone through the procurement process, say 12 months ago. The contract comes up in 24 months' time. However, this is now 12 months down the road. They wish they had this, this, and this, because it allows you to build that type of intelligence, so you're ready for the next one. Be able to then take those data patterns and then rank the customer priorities, such as the reliability, the return on investment, the time to deploy, the time to connect, the financing, the modularity that you're able to do with it. And that would tell them where they can best fit within the market. Everybody wants to build the Amazon of the world, of their industry. However, in reality, they might be a better company if they were Wayfarer, for argument's sake, much smaller with higher margins. They would then need to use the market research that they've done properly and look at having benchmarking data, look to break down individual channels, and then look at the emerging monetization models, such as grid services and the demand response, because those all have different price values. Once you've done that, then you need to then transfer it all into analytics, which is basically the standard stuff, such as value analysis gaps, bundle auditing, price positioning. And then my final point really would be, not only if you do that right, not only would it strengthen their go-to-market potential and add serious weight to their Series A narrative, the investors themselves, particularly in Series A, when it's into technology, they're not looking at just the technology. They want to know that the organization that's coming to them for the money have proof that they can compete intelligently and at scale with good margin discipline. Which is one of the most important things, because all of those things added together equals return on investment from their point of view. Hopefully, that gives a slight insight there.
Thank you very much, Ian. Nadine, anything to add on this?
No, thank you. I think that's been quite thoroughly answered. Thank you.
Thank you very much to all of you. Quick reset of the conversation, then we'll go on to another question that I've got in the chat that was sent in. So this is a Startup Growth Q&A. I believe it's our 142nd session. We've been doing these for 4 years now, and we're here to help in the next 10 minutes now. That's all there's left. We're here to help startups with whatever questions you may have on growing your business to the next stage. Whether you want to know about user, client, vendor, partner acquisition, or perhaps growth hacks, go-to-market, or just generic sales, marketing, advertising, branding, or even pricing, since we've got people on pricing here today. And all that jazz, there literally are no wrong questions, and there's no need to be shy, because it's a learning curve for us all, especially me. For those of you, just a reminder, those of you that are tuning in via the live streams, whether that's LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram, please be aware that unfortunately we are unable to monitor your questions there live. So if you do have questions, you'll have to join us here on Microsoft Teams. Either click on the links that I've posted on all those live streams that takes you directly to our Microsoft Teams site for this call, or simply go to our website, startuptoscaleup.club. Look for today's session, which is Startup Growth Q&A 142. Click join. It's a quick registration, and then that gets you a link to your email for you to join us here. And by the way, it's audio only. Once you're on Microsoft Teams, just type your question in the chat and we'll give you the mic so that you can ask our team. As you can see, there's an image shared on your screen. For those of you that are also looking at the video, we run 6 regular events. So if your call today is not on growth, please save them for the other sessions we run. Monday's talent, Tuesday's product and tech, Wednesday's growth, Thursday's fundraising, second Friday of the month, UK startup law, and third Friday of the month, UK startup finances. They're all from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time. You can RSVP to any of them by our site, startuptoscaleup.club. And you can also join our WhatsApp community of groups with founders, investors, and operators. And you can find that WhatsApp icon at the top and bottom of our website. And last but not least, for those of you that are finding any value in this, please feel free to share the news, because we need all the help we can get. Despite having had about 280,000 people join us, because we've lately changed platforms a few times, I think we should do with some spreading the word. But without further ado, let's go on to the next question. Let's try and keep it short, please, team. So under a minute each. This is a meal delivery service for diabetic customers near Manchester. I don't know why, but it sounds familiar. I hope I haven't had this question before. There precedes an angel has promised to invest at least 50% for us to finish our product and build our operations, I'm assuming. If our meal delivery service for diabetics build a base of 100 loyal customers who see it as essential to managing their health. So basically somebody has promised to give 50% if they get 100 loyal customers. I think that's a better way to put it. What acquisition strategies, such as meal plans designed with trusted dietitians, continuous feedback loops to improve customer experience, and user data showing measurable health outcomes, could create deep emotional loyalty to the brand? So, in a nutshell, let me rewrap it. Somebody's promised to give them 50% of what they need in terms of fundraising if they get 100 loyal customers. And they're asking, how do we do that? So with that, please only keep it to a maximum of 1 minute each. We will start with, let's see, Ian Brown, Russell, David, and then Nadine, please. Your minute of glory starts now.
I worked on the 4th largest UK app that you would purchase food boxes essentially from, pre-made meals, and I saw plenty of mistakes there. So, particularly in this one, I've got direct experience. Look to make sure that you design for daily dependence, not just convenience. That's what you're not looking for. So that allows you to create meal plans with diabetics and dietitians. Close the feedback loop continuously, get feedback from customers every 5 to 7 days. Look at the track and show of real health outcomes. So it gives you a health progress dashboard, which you could do. Let users log their blood glucose trends, meal satisfaction, energy moods after meals, etc. That gives you countless data. Look to build the human connection early, a phone call directly with the person that's ordering. Turn every box into a support tool. Print out health tips, progress quotes, recipes for them. Look to build a referral route for the community trust. So offer
Thank
people
you, Ian.
£10 for a pen. Okay.
Thank you. Russell.
Hi, yes. So almost to build on what Ian was saying there, I was going to say, yeah, definitely go down that referral word of mouth route and really work on having those early stage customers become your brand advocates. They can probably help you as well with communities that you could go out to target or have discussions or do free webinars as a bit of an educational ploy to try and get the name out there. And finally, just triple check from the investor how they define a loyal customer, because that sounds a little bit sort of ambiguous. They may have already done that, but I'd always want to be sure, okay, what are you defining as a loyal customer, so you can map to that.
Good point. Thank you, Ian. David, please.
You've got to get the customers. So there are lots of things that you can try. Just 2 very quick ones. One is you could ring round GPs, find out would they put leaflets in their surgery waiting rooms. And obviously social, there'll be support groups and user groups, and you want to try and interact with them. Once you've got the customer, you want them to be as loyal as possible. Largely, loyalty comes down to excellence. If you do an absolutely outstanding, excellent job, they will be loyal. But excellent means the taste, the benefits that they get from it, the packing it comes in, the service performance, absolutely every single element of it. But also you can help support loyalty through gathering data on their progress. So is it really working? And gamification, so that people start to outcompete each other. I'm assuming that this is helping them with weight loss. If it's that side of dietary. Well, gamification is easy in that context, and that creates tremendous loyalty. That's me.
Thank you very much. And last but not least, Nadine, please.
Thank you. Building on some of those really great ideas that we've just heard, Exclusivity is always great. So, you know, if you're trying to get to 100, you can invite 100 people to start and give them bespoke perks, you know, based on them locking in and staying in. The hardest thing is getting people to continue after trial period, but trial periods do work. And as it is based on what the last panelist just said, it has to be really good, really tasty. And also they need to be able to give their opinion, and therefore you take that and make it better. So having that sort of crowd source of information is important. This is a great meal, but we actually don't like this. What else can we have as an alternative? And then think about in-person events as well. So is it a case that they can go to a cooking class, which helps them, you know, learn how to cook the things that are in your meal packs, but then actually you just send it to them? That's a really nice, engaging event, which gets people talking about it, generating more content. And then, yeah, think about just of those 100 people that you get in, find some super ambassadors for you. So it can be either influencers, and there's a ton of food content on YouTube, which has amazing views. So you can either go like that, or you can find people that just live and breathe, you know, having had pain through not having the right meals to look after their medical condition, and then talk to them. And then together you've got a lot of information that you can share back to your investor and to put into your business to keep making it get better over time. Good luck.
Thank you very much, Nadine. Now, I hate to do this because the least I can do is respect your time, but we've got David, who is one of our most ardent founders that joins us, and he's asked the question. Have we got time? Is it okay if we take David's question?
Yeah,
we're
sure.
about a minute away.
Yeah,
right,
fine with me.
Let me give David the floor. Bear with me, David. Let me just quickly. Oh God, let me find you. Where are you? I'll give you the mic. Can you talk now? Are you audible, David? Can you hear us? Okay, let me. Can you hear us?
Yes, yes.
Perfect. Please introduce yourself quickly and then fire away with a question. By the way, the question is in the chat, panelists, but if you can give the question so that the live streams can hear it too, please, David. But first, quick introduction and then fire away with your question.
Okay, thank you. I'll try to be quick. I'm founder of a startup that is in the section of commerce.
Sorry, I can't hear him.
Hear me?
David, you'll need to speak a bit louder because it's not very easy to hear you.
Okay, so once again, I'm a founder of a startup that is a cross section of PropTech, e-commerce, and a marketplace. So my question from me is, as an early stage marketplace, should I focus on the supply side first, on demand side first?
A very good question, and a question that pretty much every startup I've come across in that field has. So when you're a marketplace, in this case, David is in sort of the prop tech world, do you focus on supply or demand first? So again, let's keep it to under a minute each, please. This time we will start, again, if it's okay with you, Nadine, we'll start with the lady of the house, then we'll go to Ian Brown, Ian Russell, and last, David Abbott. Less than 1 minute each, please, team. Nadine?
Okay, so I would say do both. Probably not the answer you wanted, but you know, you need to have demand and you need to have traction first, okay, so that you have an audience that needs serving. But the last thing you want to do is keep them waiting. So you do need to get your supplier side set up as well at the same time. I would pick 1 or 2 from the supplier side that you really trust and rely on, that can cover a range of services for you, but also be continuously creating your demand all the time, so that as soon as they need something, you're able to connect them, but then continuously expand your supply side network. So yes, demand is very important. Get those customers on a waiting list, get them to tell you what they need. Once you find out what they need, ensure that you have 1 or 2 suppliers ready to answer and support them in their needs. Thank you.
So in a way, more demand at first and some supply.
Yeah.
Ian Brown, I believe it was.
Yeah, on an e-commerce point of view, I would say you need to prioritize supply first. Without inventory, you've got nothing to sell or to market. Agents and landlords, developers won't stay if you bring them traffic, but you can't convert it, and you need real live options to begin with testing the demand. Rule of thumb, I would usually say in this sort of scenario, you can fake demand to test ideas, but you can't fake inventory. So you need to have a mind on both, unfortunately. There's no quick and fast
Ian.
method.
Ian Russell, please.
I don't know how helpful this is going to be now, but for a pure binary answer, I would go demand, because if you have no demand, you're kind of dead in the water.
Thank you very much, Ian. And I believe last but not least, David Abbott, please.
It was an interesting split of answers, and I think I agree. I agree with everybody. I don't think you start with generating the demand, but you do start by making certain that the demand exists. And I think that that's probably the key point that people are making. You know, there's no point whatsoever in launching something if there's not going to be any demand for it. But then I would agree with Ian Brown. You have to have some stock, something to sell them to start off with. And then once they start purchasing, you can add more suppliers on. You can then find more people to buy. You know, you can grow both sides of it. If you think about Amazon, they launched with books. Amazon sell everything now, but they launched with books. They didn't go out and find a whole lot of people who might buy books and say, come back in a year's time, you know, we might have something to sell you. They launched with books and then they grew it from there.
Thank you very much, David. And my quick 2 pence is a combination of some of the stuff that was said here. First and foremost, it depends on your model and what you're trying to do. But what I would strongly advise, David, is to touch on what David said. Start with one simple or single offer or service. And simultaneously, depending if you're charging the vendors a fee to join you, or a commission, i.e. percentage. So depending on how you do that, but what I would do is start a community or maybe a landing page, start taking people's details, i.e. the demand, and then go a bit like what Nadine said, and then go and find a couple of suppliers that have that, but be really niche about that. Once you either find out that that is not workable, or two, that works brilliantly, then you can do what David said, you know, the Amazon stuff, and then you move on to the next product or offer or service. But initially, try and do a bit of both, although you do want to have some kind of community. I don't know, maybe even start a YouTube page or a TikTok channel or a WhatsApp group or simply a landing page, whatever that may be, and try and do a bit of both. But ideally, you want to have the demands, because then you can go and say, you know, to those people that you want to get, you can say, you know, we've got a certain clientele. Would you like to join us? And this is how much it costs. We are now 6 minutes over the line, and I am extremely sorry and very apologetic towards my panelists, because if nothing else, that shows that we don't have respect for that time. So please, next time, ask your questions early. Although we are 6 minutes, if anybody would like to give us any parting words, let's see, either parting word or a no. So we'll start again with the lady of the house, Nadine, then Ian Brown, Ian Russell, and David Abbott at the end, please.
Thank you, and thank you for your time and your questions. You know, however we get them, I think it's really good. So I would say, you know, focus on what you're using your time for. Again, I want to reiterate what I said in the beginning. I think it's really easy to fall into the trap of just doing loads of stuff, and then the stuff is not really getting you anywhere or driving your revenue. You don't want to do that. So, you know, whatever business that you're coming up with, be laser focused on revenue and the why. Understand the why and building a brand culture that will bring customers to you. This needs to be something you enjoy. You're choosing an entrepreneurial life, so make sure it's really worth it and you're enjoying it. And good luck and enjoy the sunshine if you're in London.
Thank you very much, Nadine. Thank you very much, Nadine. I believe it's Brown and then Russell. Can you hear us, Ian Brown?
Yeah. Sorry, my apologies. I'm enjoying the sun up here in sunny West Midlands at the minute as well. Well, I would always give people 2 pointers when they're looking to get a startup. You can never do enough research because research will give you your market. Research will tell you how much, or it should do, the market, how much the market will stand for your product. Research will tell you how much in revenue and, more importantly, profit you can make. And then once you've done your research and you've decided to go down the route of everything, always keep it in mind. Spend £1 less than what you make. Because whilst entrepreneurship, you fall over, and most people do fall over several times before they become successful. If you always watch your bottom line and your profitability, your business will have a lot longer legs.
Thank you. Yes, Russ.
Yeah, for me, yeah, just thanks very much for having me. Something that I think it was actually touched on earlier, but I always like to say as sort of a leaving comment is really pay attention to your owned channels. Make sure that they're cohesive, all singing from the same hymn sheet, and having that in place gives you a really solid foundation to then build on that with paid activity later on.
Thanks, Ian. Last but not least, David, please.
I completely agree with all the great advice that has been said. I think for me, the key thing is really keep an eye on profit and cash. That's where things go wrong. And the other is it can become all consuming. Don't forget your mental health. Get out into the sunshine. Continue playing a sport, whatever it is. Make sure that you take care of yourself as well as building the business.
Huge thanks to everyone. We are now 10 minutes over the line. This was Startup Growth Q&A 142. We help founders grow their business from 0 to hero, or at least that's what we tried. The idea is that we do this every Wednesday from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time, and everyone's welcome. We run 6 regular events. Mondays it's talent, Tuesdays product and tech, Wednesdays growth, Thursdays fundraising, second Friday of the month it's UK startup law, and third Friday of the month it's UK startup finances. Please feel free to RSVP to your preferred session via our site, startuptoscaleup.club, or when you actually go there, you might want to join our WhatsApp community. It's groups of founders, investors, and operators, and it's all good to be together on this journey called Startup. Now, as far as my part in words are concerned, remember the startup journey can be both exciting but also quite challenging. So try to have some fun in the meantime and be kind to yourself and everyone else for that matter too. Huge thanks to my panelists. Please feel free to follow them on LinkedIn, and hopefully we'll see you on Monday for Startup Talent Q&A at 12 p.m. UK time. Thank you and God bless. Bye for now.
Thank you.